spring and summer, can we still use that time since we'll still be in school? Well, maybe still be in school.
I think your governor's about to make a proclamation.
I think he is too.
So I wouldn't be hopeful that you're going to be in school. I can't.
What state are we talking about? Did
in as far as quarantined, still on payroll and still doing stuff.
South Carolina is not going to open schools the rest of the year.
I was just saying, I think we're about to get a proclamation ourselves.
That was just a few minutes ago. That's why I was trying to watch that. We had a meeting this morning where we talked about that if our students went back to work and got sick and other issues, you know, what that was going to do for us. And so, because we were afraid, because South Carolina wants to open back up, we were afraid that they were going to open their schools. But they just reported on the Charlotte, they just had press conference. They're not going to reopen schools in South Carolina. So I don't know what that's going to mean for pay.
Yeah, I believe the governor's going to make an announcement by, if not by Friday, at least it's forthcoming.
Yeah.
Dr. Lamb, I was just asking about the gap between spring semester and summer semester. If we could
There isn't one.
Internship. Oh, it starts right back up.
I announced last night that as of April the 20th, if you have completed your 80 hours this semester, you can start your summer log as of April 20th. We got the go ahead to do that.
Okay. I haven't looked at that email yet. Thank you.
So that's kind of the first announcement I have tonight is we need to get started on summer. You know, you have the CAP and the PSYOP due. I'm going to do a brief, as I told you, I'm going to do a brief run through of the CAP next week on our night for our, we normally run long anyway, but I'll try to be brief. We'll do the CAP to get you started on that next week, which is your first evidence due this summer. You can start your log as of Monday of this week for your summer log if you already had 85 for the spring. I will post these announcements. We had to wait until we got approval to do that. So there's not really going to be a break between spring and summer. We're just going to keep pushing right on through, getting your hours, working on evidences, keeping our shelves open, just rolling right on. You know, because of the climate and the issues and those kinds of things. I had to file a treatise with DPI Monday about what we were doing to maintain our clinical internships. I had to give them a detailed explanation of all the steps that we've taken and the things that we've done. All the meetings we've had with our collaborative partners, the town halls, the COVID meetings, all the things that we've done, the alternative activities that we've posted for all of y'all, all those things. And so I had to send that to Andrew Monday. Because we are maintaining that we have not interrupted. We've just shifted gears and changed our clinical experiences. If you don't get your clinical experiences, you don't get your license. And we do not want that to happen. So we're still waiting some clarification on student teaching, I understand, for the undergraduate people. But my response is this was just another day for us. And so we've moved on. We were already doing these things. And so hopefully we won't experience any interruptions. Thank you and welcome. Thanks for being with us tonight. Welcome Dr. Massengill and Dr. Tobias. Let's get started here. I'll share my screen. Let me close that. Move that out of the way and let me go back here. This is where we are. We're going to, as I said, we sped up last week, so let's look at our weekly schedule. All right, so this is week 15, Zoom session 13. We have 2 more sessions after tonight. Next week is case study. I'm also going to cover the CAP. I'll have the CAP materials in there after tonight. I did not want to put those in until you're supposed to submit. This is the night that you're supposed to submit your skip final evidence narrative. If you haven't, keep working on it. So that's today, the 22nd of April. We're officially done with the skip today. And so I will post in our shell, just like the CAP task and prompts, and an example, just like I have the skip. Remember, after the OMA, no more templates. So it'll be just like the skip. You'll have the directions and an example. I'll put those in tonight. Now I've got a Zoom right after this one, so it might be 10 o'clock before I get them in there, but they'll be in there tonight, since tonight is it was the soft deadline for the skip to be done. So we'll do that. We've covered all the topics on here. Next week is our case study. It's our EC case study. Make sure you review Chapter 7 in your book, Principal's Guide to School Law. And also, you've already reviewed your intervention teams. We've already gone through that stuff. You might want to look at FERPA again. Our case study next week involves, don't get thrown off by that it took place in a foreign country. And there's a reason why it did, because of FERPA laws in this country. We're afraid if we had a case study that somebody claimed that we violated somebody's rights. So don't get thrown off by it's in another country. Look at what the principal did or didn't do. Who's in charge in the building? Did the teacher, did the principal let the little things become the big things? And then, this is one of those ironical ones where the parents coming to the school and protesting are not the EC parents, they're the regular ed parents who are claiming that because the EC kids are in class, the inclusion model, that's preventing their children from getting their basic education. That's the irony. And so that is the case study next week. Focused on the principal, what she did or didn't do, what she should or shouldn't done. Focus on her response after the complaints came in about what was going on in the classroom. What did she did or didn't do then? Did she go or did she send somebody else? So don't just look at the legal piece of it. Look at the ethical piece in terms of what her professional ethical behavior should have been along the way. Remember, we look at each of the cases through the four ethical paradigms as well, not just the legal perspective, but the four ethical paradigms. Look at the paradigm, the ethical paradigm of profession. What did or she didn't do? Remember our standards of malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance. Is she guilty of nonfeasance? Or is she guilty of misfeasance? Doing the wrong thing unintentionally? Is she guilty of malfeasance? She intentionally did the wrong thing. Or is she guilty of nonfeasance? She just didn't do anything. So look at your ethical standards as well. Your legal standards, your ethical standards. Did she follow? What has she done? Look at it from a curriculum expert. Did she know what was going on in the classrooms? When these parents came and made these claims, was that the first she was hearing of it? So look at those things, and we'll cover that next week. All right, as I said last week, we've accelerated so that I could get to interviewing. Hopefully some of you will have some interviews soon. I have everything in here except for one on 21st century skills. No, I do have it. It's right there. And so I've got everything in here that you will need. You go back again. It's under interviewing materials, the tab over on the side. It's where you will find all of these things. And so I'll go ahead and dive right in. The first thing I'll cover is my top 10 for job interviews. This is from 40 plus years of experience in the business, hiring at the building level and the district level, literally hundreds of employees, and unfortunately having to let hundreds of employees go. We had to let 200 go at one time in CMS. And so I'm not telling you I'm an expert. I'm not even probably the most expert person sitting here. I'm just the oldest and the nastiest. So here we go. I'm gonna jump right in. Dress for success. You cannot be too overdressed at a job interview. I called a fellow one time. He was an internal candidate for a high school assistant principal. He said he was working at a building. Working. It was during the teacher work days before school started back. I said, well, come on over. That's okay. I know you're probably, not wearing a suit and tie, but that's fine. But he came over and he had, and he had on his bad wig. He wore a wig. It was not a toupee. It was a wig. I mean, it was like, it might as well have had a bill. Might as well have been a ball cap. It looked like a skull cap with hair on it. And it was kind of cocked to one side. I don't remember a thing the man said. All I remember is I just couldn't I couldn't square him up to look at him because his wig was turned one way and his head was turned the other. If you're going to go for an interview, wear your good wig. Nothing wrong with wearing a wig, but if you got one, wear your good one when you go. Take your 2-page evidence summary. I was asked a question again yesterday by the 605 students. You cannot download your task stream DRF portfolio. That is a secure location. You can download your competency folio of your artifacts, and those are a nice thing to take with you on a job interview. But I would suggest doing a 2-page evidence summary of the 6 evidences that you did, where you could show how you collaborated, made a good number go up or a bad number go down. I've got an example of one of those in here as well. Here it is. Here's the 2-page. You just, here are my 6, and you do a quick and dirty about your data on them. Shouldn't be longer than 2 pages. That's a good thing to have, because when it talks about the 5 things that you need to take on your next job interview, 5 things you must bring: a current resume, that's with your references, a cover letter, a strategic plan, and your portfolio. Your portfolio is your competency folio, and the strategic plan, I don't know that I would write one for a school. I would show my 2-page evidence summary to show your strategic plan, that you know how to work through a strategic plan for a school improvement plan. And so that takes its place. So where it says strategic plan, 2-page evidence summary that shows that you have been through the school improvement plan process and you built a school improvement plan, which is a strategic plan for the school. So your portfolio is, you can publish and share your competency folio with your artifacts. The 2-page evidence summary is your strategic plan. Make sure you have your references, a cover letter specific to the school or the district, and your resume. Your resume should not be more than 2 pages long, by the way. So make sure you have that with you. Research both the school and the administration. Look at the report card and TWC, just like we did this semester, so that you'll be able to speak to their individual school, know the background of their administrative team. That's very important. When we talk about the internal context of a school, just like I told you for this semester for OMA Task 1, 2 things we look at is the report card to TWC, because it has our academic performance, our teachers, it has attendance, discipline. All that's what our school is about. I would never walk into an interview in school I hadn't looked at their report card and the TWC. I don't know if I want to work there or not. Know what you don't know: EVOS, Power School, Power Source, RTI, PBIS, and Finance. When I say know what you don't know, please understand that we've given you a limited view until, as Dr. Tobias and Dr. Massengill will tell you, the Power School portal and EVOS portal and RTI, they're all very different, much more complex and involved when you have an administrator portal into those. You've only used the teacher portal, and maybe one of your administrators let you look at their portal, but trust me, there's a lot more modules in those. And so don't walk in and say, yeah, I've used Power School in my classroom, I know all about it. No, you don't, because you've never even seen the discipline module and how involved it is. Also, you probably haven't seen the evaluation system, building the matrix and all those things. So know that there's more that you don't know, but be able to speak to instruction in the bottom line, student achievement, but also, it goes back to your strengths and weaknesses. Your strengths have to be dispositional. I'm on time, I'm honest, I'm forthright, I'm hardworking, I'm dependable. Your strengths should always be dispositional. Your weaknesses are based on the experience. I know I haven't gotten certified to do teacher observations yet, but that'll be the first thing I do, because I know everybody will have to cover for me as a new AP until I get trained. Everybody, when a school hires a new AP, that does not decrease their load of teacher observations. It just means there's more for everybody else until that person gets up to speed. And you need to know that. You need to know what you don't know. You need to know that your weaknesses are based on inexperience, not on who you are as a person. That your strengths and weaknesses, that's one of those landmine questions you get asked most every level of interviewing. And your strengths should always be dispositional. I'm an on-time person. I'm honest. I'm ethical. I'm hardworking. I'm responsible. I won't be like Barney. And as soon as Andy went to Raleigh, he gave Gomer a gun and deputized the town drunk Otis. I won't do that. If you leave me in charge, I'm a responsible person. You can trust me. That's what you've got to convince them of. But you got to know that, I haven't had a lot of experience in these things. It's okay to acknowledge that. You don't have to be a know-it-all. You can't. You haven't had the experience yet. But that doesn't have to be a negative. It can be a positive, because that you've got some positive attributes. They can train you the way they want to. And you don't have bad habits to break. Along that line, have a humorous anecdote about how you were able to turn a negative into a positive. Most all interviews will have something of that nature. Every electronic reference that I get wants to know how you turn a negative into a positive. They want to know that you're not going to melt down the first time there's a little trouble. Be prepared to discuss hours and responsibilities honestly. I went to a school on the east side of Charlotte. I had several interns there over at Hickory Grove. It's a big elementary school on the east side of town, or east side of the county, Charlotte. And I walked in, and it was late September. No, it was mid-September. And I was making a visit there. I had a new intern. I was visiting my existing interns. It wasn't even hog killing weather yet. It wasn't even October. It wasn't even cold weather yet. And there was a bulletin board, welcome back to school from from August. And with their new faculty members, I noticed, well, there's a lady. I trained her as, to be an AP. She got a job here. How wonderful. So I went in and see Aquanetta, the principal. How you doing, Aquanetta? She doing fine. I trained her when she was an AP. And I said, well, how's Allison doing? Oh, I've already let her go. Okay. Ain't even cold weather yet. She said, here at Hickory Grove, we're a late start elementary because we have one of the old 5 traditional, still around Smart Start programs from back in the 70s. The huge pre-K programs from back in the 70s. There's still some of those around, which is a whole separate school on the same campus at Hickory Grove. They've got 1,000 kids, and the elementary's got 1,000 or 1,200 kids. Well, obviously you can't get, that's a problem getting it on the same campus, getting everybody in. And so they start at 8:30 and we start at 9:30, which means that we go every day until 4:30 and teachers can't leave until 5 o'clock. And said she came in, and as soon as she got the job, she informed me that she'd be leaving at 4 o'clock every day, 30 minutes before the students did, because she had to go pick her kids up from daycare. And I told her she could pick them up anytime she wanted to. She don't bother to come here. We won't hold you during the day. And so, those are the kinds of things that happen. Here's a little notion that those of you who don't live in an urban area like I have for the last 24 years. I live at Lake Norman, halfway between Charlotte and Statesville. It's 20 miles back to town. And until the toll lanes opened within the last 2 months, it was a crawl. When I was a high school principal, I was all the way at the other end of the county, about a 30-mile drive through the county to get down there. And that was before 485 opened and there were any lanes. Now, the thing was, is I left for work every morning at 4:30. We were an early start high school, but if I left much later than that, I wasn't going to be at work by 6. That's just part of it. But my point is, you got to discuss hours and responsibilities honestly. If you know you can't work late, or you know that, if the building's too far away, I mean, the building's not going to get any closer because you get the job. And the traffic won't just, they won't just, like, you can't go down the emergency lane with a siren on because, oh, I got a new job. The traffic won't get better. The building won't get any closer. You've got to talk about that honestly. You've got to know those kinds of things. And so you've got, if you know it's too far away, don't go interview for that job. It won't get any closer or any better. You've got to be honest with yourself. I've had a person walk in a early start high school and say, well, I'm not a morning person. Well, I appreciate that. I'm not going to hire you, but I appreciate knowing that. Because, we start early every morning. This is not a place for you. Know your strengths and weaknesses. We've already talked about that. Don't discuss salary, experience steps, national board pay. As you know, the principal will refer you to HR for those things. They do not discuss those. They are forbidden from talking about those kinds of things. I have a story that goes along with that. I hired a young lady at the end of the first month. She quit, mad. I didn't bring home much money. I said, well, now you understood when they asked you if you wanted your pay in 10 installments and 12, but you didn't get the same amount. It wasn't an IQ test. Would you rather get 12 checks of the same amount or 10 checks? If you got 12 checks, you got less every month. She didn't understand that. I can't make that up. But you don't talk those things with the school principal, especially you schedule a time with HR to talk about that. If that is a big issue with you. Don't engage in gossip or negative talk. Even in places as big as Charlotte, we knew everybody. Even though there were close to 200 principals, we all knew one another. And so if you do that, the word will get back out on you. And then number 10, which is my pet peeve of all times, do not interview for a job that you won't take just for the experience. This is a waste of the interviewer's time, and word will spread. My job is not to get you experience interview. My job is to find the best person. Do not waste my time. If you know it's too far, if you know you don't want to work at an early start high school, if you know the traffic's bad, if you know that you need to get your kids at 4 o'clock and we don't get out till you can't leave until 5, don't come interview for the job. Don't waste my time. My job is not to prepare you. You're just grinding my time up. That's kind of like when we're talking about, one of your discussion boards is what's the hiring process in your district. You just can't understand how much time if HR doesn't do the vetting, if HR doesn't do the paperwork, if HR doesn't do the references and all that, hiring takes forever. And it can just grind your time up for 2 or 3 weeks, just about almost full time. And then somebody come in just to take your time up. So I had one person come in and said, well, I don't really want to work here, but they're going to have the same job open at Providence. And I want to know what questions you're going to ask. So I'll know what questions to answer when I get to the good school. I can't help you there. So those are it. And then if you want, the document is here, the things you need to be able to do at your first faculty meeting when you get your first AP job. Here are the important things to do on that. Some pretty good suggestions that I also wrote on that one. But so that's what it looks like. Let me close that one. And so we've already talked about the 5 things you should bring. And here's what I'm talking about. This is from U.S. News and World Report. We want to find the best person for the job. These are the things you need to know about the interview. They're trying to find the best person for the job. We're busy. Don't aggravate us if you're not willing to work there. Don't take our time. We want to hire somebody we can get along with. We're afraid of hiring Barney. We want to make sure that you're a responsible person, that if they leave and go to the principal's meeting and you're there and somebody pulls the fire alarm, you don't wet your pants and crawl up in a corner. We're trying to figure out what's going to be like to manage you. We want you to help us figure out why we should hire you. And we wonder what you're not telling us. So this is, although I sound kind of crazy when I came out with my top 10, I found an article years later that supported that maybe I wasn't that far off. This is from an actual HR professional right here. And so those are pretty good top 10 to live by, but here's just an article to document, to support what I was talking about. We wonder what you're not telling us. Don't have gaps in your resume, ever. From the time that you left high school, you need to document every year of your existence since you left high school, period. I had a person say, well, I worked as a waitress. My husband, I was traveling around with him, and I worked as a waitress in different stops when I couldn't get a teaching job. Well, then put it down. That wouldn't stop me from hiring you. That sounds to me like you're doing what you needed to do. The problem is if you've done some time in the joint, and that's what we worry about. The bug house, the joint, wherever, the prison. I'm being facetious, but account for your time since you left high school. I don't care how old you are. If you're as old as I am, you need to tell us every year where you've been for the last 45 years. You need to tell us where you've been, what you've been doing, because we wonder what you're not telling us. Just one of those things. All right, so things you don't ask in an interview. When will I be promoted? A lot of times I would have AP candidates come in who were from outside CMS, and they'd say, how long am I going to have to be AP before I get to be principal? And I was like, never, because you're not going to get to be AP. Have a nice day. Literally, can't do that. Again, salary. Again, this is from a HR professional. Salary for the principals will not talk to you about salary. Don't ask that question. When can I expect a raise? Don't. Again, salary, raise, national board, we don't ask that. Don't ask about flex time. Remember, we do not have comp time in North Carolina or flex time. Those are not allowable things. And so we're not going to talk to you about something illegal. Even if we do it, as Dr. Massengill says, even if we kind of do it under, on the down low, we're not going to talk to you about it. You might be from the labor board for all we know, and going to get us caught up in some kind of a sting. So don't ask about something illegal, and don't ask any questions that shows you've not been listening. So back to those again. All right, so I'm monitoring our time here. Let me close that. All right, so here are the types of interviews. There are 4 types of interviews that you may go through in order to get an assistant principal position. You may go through 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of these types of interviews. It's according to how large the district is. If you're in a large district, you'll have to go through an applicant pool interview. And there's 3 different types of applicant pool interviews that you would have to go through. Charlotte-Mecklenburg does a virtual. Some do a data analysis interview, and others do a reasoning interview. And even others do a strength finder, which you will cover next semester. We'll do a Gallup interview. So let's talk quickly about those 4 types of interviews. All right, the first one would be the Gallup interview. People are, I can't show you that stuff because I'm actually a certified Gallup trainer. So that means that I signed a non-compete that I wouldn't show it to people because they sell it still. But we're going to cover the Rath and Conchi book with you next semester on Strength Finder, and it's basically the same thing. But the formal Gallup interviews, it took me a year. I had to train the Gallup organization for a year. It's basically a qualitative, teaches you to be a qualitative data collector. You're not an interviewer, you're a perceiver. But they have 60 questions. They're in 12 sections segments. You got to score at least 44. They have a landmine question in each of the 5 sections of 12 questions. And if you hit one of those landmines and answer it wrong, at the end of that section, you're done. So if you hit the first landmine in the first 12, you're done at 12. You got to avoid the landmines for each of the 5 sections, the landmine questions, in order to get all 60. And the landmine questions are, if your district had a policy that you disagreed with, and you thought it was harmful for kids, kind of like not giving at-risk schools extra money, would you support that policy or do the right thing for kids? And of course, the answer is you'd support the policy. So that's one of the landmine questions. Another one of the landmine questions, the first one you'll get is, if it paid exactly the same, would you rather be a teacher or a school administrator? And the answer, of course, is school administrator. You're looking to change jobs. If you say, oh, if it's paid the same, I'd still be a teacher, they'll let you be. You'll never get, that's the end of it. They'll ask you if you're an on-time person. So if you're not an on-time person, you can't be a school administrator because we run about time. And so they'll ask you questions like that, and you have to give a definitive yes or no question. You will learn about it next semester, Strength Finder, what those actual strength attributes are. And so you'll go through something like that to weed you out in the applicant pool. Either that, or they'll give you a reasoning activity. I love this one. The reasoning activity, you can tell this is an older one because the person was 2 weeks late reporting for the job, and they had 21 interviews. They had 21 emails. I get 21 before I get up on Monday morning, and I get up early. So you can tell it's a little bit old. But anyway, you have to figure out, this is a reasoning activity. You have to read these 21 emails and figure out what you would do with them and why. But you have to determine if they are urgent and important, not urgent, but they are important, urgent but not important, and not urgent and not important, like a spam email. There's a spam email in there. Obviously, that's not urgent, it's not important. There's also some school law mixed in there. And then overall, it's an IQ test. If you put anything in quadrant 3, you fail. You don't make it. Think about it for a moment. There is no way anything could be urgent, but it's not important. Again, it's a reasoning activity. So if you put anything in quadrant 3, you fail this assessment. You do not get into the applicant pool. And there's a couple of really glaring ones in here where a reporter wants to come inside your building, do interviews, talk to kids, take videos and pictures. And we all know that that's a no-no, that you would send them to your public information. But we would never let a reporter in our school and have access to kids, things like that. So this is a reasoning activity. We're moving away from these more and more. I only know a couple districts that are still doing these now. We're doing more of the Gallup strengths. We're doing that still. We're kind of moving away from the reasoning activities. What we're replacing them with are 2 things. Number 1, virtual interviews. And the other is data analysis. And so this is the actual transcript of what a person who did the applicant pool in Charlotte Mecklenburg could remember. I had her write it down as soon as she came out. She was one of my students. And they give you scenarios, kind of like some case study kind of things. They give you, they had a landmine question. If there was a system policy you didn't agree with and you didn't think it was in the best interest of your students, what would you do? That was the landmine they asked during that virtual. And the answer is you'd follow the policy. And the rest of these are fairly explanatory. Now, here's the trick. Sometimes they will give you, as it says here, you only have 3 minutes to elaborate on your response. And then they cut you off and they go to the next question, no redos. Now, if you're afraid that you might choke under pressure, I love it down here at the bottom. Here's the trick. If there's some things that you want to remember, they can put them on little sticky notes. Turn the notepad upside down. Turn your sticky pad upside down. I might have one here somewhere. Turn your sticky pad upside down and write your notes on it. So when you peel them off, the sticky part is on the bottom of the note rather than the top. Stick those around the margins of your laptop screen, so that you can have little reminders of things that you want to say during your interview, according to the data set or the information that they gave you up front. If there's things that you might think that you might freeze. And the big thing is talk to the screen like we're talking now. Don't look away. Don't, act as if you're conversing. But the big thing is don't ever look down and read notes. Turn your sticky pad upside down, write your notes on them, pull it off, stick them around the margin so nobody can see that it looks like you're looking at the screen talking to them, you're actually reading your notes. That's the trick. But here's the kinds of things that they will ask you in a virtual interview as the applicant pool interview. So that's in there. The last thing that they have is they can do a data analysis task where they give you this up front. This is what it looks like. You can read it. It's basically what you did in the app cell last semester. It's exactly what they give you. It's exactly what they give you. You look at your data from your standardized test scores, do a quick and dirty on research best practices, and write them a little action plan. Really simple. I include this one in there. Some of them are doing that and they bring you in and you have to do it on site. You can't bring somebody else's work in. But so those are the 4 type of initial interviews, especially for districts who are using applicant pools. Again, back to where we were. The Strength Finder or Gallup, in-basket activities, virtual, and your data interviews. All right. Now, if you get through that, your next round of interviews will be a group interview. And here we go. I put this together sometime back, and I'm not going to go through this. But the whole point of the group interview, because it will have lay people on it, civilians, community members, parents, people who are not professional educators. And the trick is, what we're asking you to do here is, can you communicate with people outside of the profession, or do you make them feel stupid by saying, oh, you don't understand that, or you don't get this, or you won't know what that means? And so what that means, don't use acronyms. Don't use all the jargon. Can you translate for them so that you can speak to them without making them sound dumb? And so the first one is, what's your leadership style? Well, for me, it's really simple. I would say transformational, but that's for the people who are in the business, who are professional leadership people, who understand what that means. But that doesn't mean anything to a parent. So you're going to have to dumb it down for them. Don't say dumb it down, but that's what you're going to have to do. I'm child-centered. I focus on issues. Earn respect to the parents. Motivate and inspire. Positive. All those. A servant leader. All those things. And so we hear data drives instruction. How would you help teachers begin to understand? And so instead of saying we're going to do data walls and PLCs, you explain it to them. Willingness to plan collaborative. That's what a PLC is. And so this prompts you to de-jargonize your responses so that you can you can relate and communicate with parents and community members, because that's going to be your second level interview. You're going to interview with people who aren't school administrators, and even some teachers won't know all the jargon. You're going to be with teachers and parents and community members on that second level interview. Can you communicate with them? Will they like you, or will you talk over their head? Unfortunately, one of our doctoral graduates from Gardner-Webb, he was one of the 3 finalists for Principal of the Year in the school district, and I had set up and was running her Principal of the Year candidate system. And we had a lady who was obviously very pregnant, and she was a local mom, and she was on the committee for the Principal of the Year, but she was also an attorney in Charlotte. She commuted to Charlotte each day where she was an attorney, and he would say something, and he would say, well, you won't understand that. And when he left, she said to me, how many times did he call me stupid? I said, I believe I counted 6. So needless to say, he was not Principal of the Year. You know, he already had a job, thankfully for him. If he had not, he would have never gotten one. But that's what the second round is for. Now, you said, well, Dale, you charged us all this money to train us all this stuff, and we don't get to use any of it. But alas, now, on the third level interview, you get the principal interview, and now you get to show them how smart you are. You get to show what you've learned for all that money you paid us at Gardner-Webb. You get your opportunity to shine now. You can talk RTI and MTSS and PLCs till the cows come home. You can use every acronym, I-class, DIBELS, M-class, I-class. You can use it all now. And so this is the principal interview. Let me see, I gotta move this out of the way. They're gonna ask you these kind of questions, and so here they are. They're gonna ask you about your goals, and they're gonna ask you some of those things, but now they're gonna ask you that trick question again, what your strengths and weaknesses are. They're gonna ask you that. When they get you feeling comfortable and you're talking that stuff, and man, you know, you're feeling really good about all that money you spent on this program, you know all the questions, the answers are on the tip of your tongue, and all of a sudden when you're just about to relax, they're gonna hit you with that strength and weaknesses question again. Your strengths are dispositional. You can't say I've done 1,000 things, because you haven't done 1,000 things. Your strengths can't be experience-based, because you don't have any. They have to be dispositional. I'm honest. I'm forthright. I'm caring. I'm responsible. I'm hardworking. I'm dedicated. I'm committed. I'm trustworthy. I'm ethical. I'm moral. I'm legal. All of those things that won't change. I'm a fully formed adult. And then on the weakness side, it's things that, you know, I need to get trained to do evaluations. I need to be trained on entering discipline incidents in power school. I need to be trained on doing teacher evaluations. I need to be trained on this and that and the other. Some of these kinds of things. I understand the things behind it. I can do data analysis, and I can do all these things. I just need training on the technical pieces that I haven't had access to yet. So here's the questions. And then finally, the Holy Grail. You get to the superintendent's office. A lot of superintendents now interview APs because they, you know, they don't want to hire people that they can't potentially move into a principal role. So you get to go and you get to go interview with the superintendent. And the superintendent's more than likely not going to talk to you about how to schedule 3 lunch shifts in a block schedule. They're not going to do that. They're going to talk to you about big picture, things like 21st century skills, future ready students, those kinds of things. You know, where are you headed? They want to see that you're a visionary, that you've got the big picture, that they, you know, can you see beyond your school and things for bigger implications? And so I've got the future ready document in there. I've got the one on, you know, so you say, well, the answer is 21st century skills, and they're going to ask you, well, how are you going to implement those? I have a document in there that I really like on how to implement, but not just what they are, but how to implement them. You should give that a little thought before speaking to a superintendent. Future Ready Students, we have that and the link to that website on what our students should look like when we get done with them. You know, in these difficult times of the coronavirus, I mean, you know, we're looking for people who have, you know, who can lead us out of this, but understand this may change what school looks like. So we need people. They don't have to be great visionaries, but they have to be able to see beyond the borders of their building, and that's what the superintendent will want to see. They're not asking you for policy decisions, but they need to know that you know that it's you know that it's bigger than just the building that you're in. And so that's what the superintendent's going to want to know. And so I've kind of breezed through this really quickly. I would spend some time with all of these different documents to get an understanding. And I've carved enough time out, I've saved enough time that we can go back, if I can find the document, and kind of end up where I normally do. Let me pull it up right quick. I don't know if it'll open with all this stuff. Let's see if we can get it to open. All right, so you went through the process. It was exhilarating. It was terrifying. It was mind-numbing. You know, the level of anxiety was over the top, but you got that job. So let's talk about the 10 things that you need to do by the time the first faculty meeting happens. You come back to work on August 15th. You'll probably come in about August 1st because you're young and aggressive and you're just a go-getter. So you've been there, and you have that first faculty meeting toward the end of the teacher work days, right, like the Friday before school starts back. That one required work day that even if you've been there for 40 years, you still have to come to. Teachers have to show up. That first faculty meeting. Here's the things that you need to have accomplished by the time that faculty meeting. How you start is how you finish in most things. If you haven't done these things by the first faculty meeting, your chances of success are not great. So here we go. Know everybody's name and know what they do. You say, well, I hadn't even met these. Doesn't matter. Get the annual from last year. Now, I have eidetic memory, or one time I did before they put me to sleep too many times. And so it was easy for me, but if it's not, work at it. I knew the name of over 200 faculty members in large high school. People came out to see it because they'd heard that I could do it and knew everybody in the room. It was easy for me. You say, well, Dale, it's easy for you. But it doesn't matter. It's very powerful. You need to know the people that work for you. And you need to know everybody's name in the room. And barring that, if you can't do that, move around the room and find out. Have them introduce themselves to you. Proximity and eye contact are important. You're moving into a leadership position. You need to know the people that work with you or work for you. Get an early win. Present something positive to the staff. Don't tackle the one thing that's been vexing the school forever. Don't tackle it first. Get an easy win. You know, oh, I got the coffee machine fixed. I went and bought some paper and brought it back myself so that we could make copies during the work days. Get an easy win. If you can establish an easy win or 2 or 3 up front, you will establish that you're a competent person. And if the first 2 or 3 things that you try to do end up in failure, you'll be labeled incompetent person or a failure. And even if things go well for you after that, it'll just be like the blind hog. Even the blind hog finds an acre every once in a while. You just got lucky. You're an incompetent person who you need to establish your competence. You need wins. I was very concerned. I saw a leader come into an institution recently, and there has been an ongoing committee for 6 years to try to fix the problem. And when the new leader came in, he said, I'll have this done before Christmas. Oh, pardon me for laughing. It has not gone well. But, don't tackle that one thing that nobody has been able to fix and think that you can fix it the first day. Get some small wins along the way before you tackle the bear. Give the staff a quick overview of who you are and your experience. Nobody wants to know about everything about you. They want to know, are you a decent person? Do you have the experience to be here? Volunteer for something nobody else wants to do. Do as I do, lend a hand. Be a servant leader is the idea there. Present the opening of school plan and be conversant. If the principal will let you, if you could do the opening of school plan, what we're going to do on day one, this, that, and the other, parent night, welcome back to school night, our open house night, one of those plans, so that that you're part of the solution now. You're not an outsider. Smile and laugh at the appropriate times. I know that sounds kind of dumb, but trust me, it's not. Be paying attention to the conversation enough to know. Ask questions and take notes so you can follow up on the request. Carry a pad in your pocket. If you have dress shirts that don't have pockets on them, get rid of them. Like Izod shirts, Polo Ralph Lauren shirts. Now, when you get to be principal and you wear a sport coat every day or a suit jacket and you got a pocket, you can wear polo shirts again. Ralph Lauren shirts, the high dollar ones. Until that time, get you some from Joseph A. Bank, nice shirts, or with a pocket, and carry a pad if you don't wear a jacket every day, where you can write down requests. You need to keep that pad with you at all times. It also serves as, this is your to-do list every day. At least have a plan each day of what you're going to try to do.
Dr. Lamb, that pad is my number one tip I could give them.
It's it. That's it. I
Fact,
bought them.
I had a teacher that suggested that to me because she noticed how many people were coming up to me asking me things.
Mm-hmm.
And we were having conversations and I was making commitments. And she finally said, "You have got to write this stuff down or you're never going to remember all this." And
That is correct.
From that point forward, I walk around with a little memo pad, or at least on my phone, I've got a running list of stuff that I keep going.
I've got, they're in my bag right behind me. Even I carry them till today. Now, obviously, when we're not at work, I'm wearing a knit shirt today, but I wear a dress shirt with a pocket for a reason. I still carry my pad of to-do things, and I can write things down. I still carry a calendar for that reason. I'll guarantee you I can turn around right now, pick up my bag, and it will have both a pad and a calendar in it, so that I can take notes. And there's the calendar right there. And there's the calendar. And so I keep those things with me. I have for 40 years. You need to have those with you. Writing it down not only helps you, but it also, the person that told you, they feel like that they've been validated or they've been heard, that it mattered enough for you to write it down. And sometimes even if you can't do it, that you wrote it down means a lot to those people. Recognize somebody for something positive that you've seen. Be specific. Don't just say, "I saw a lot of good things in the building." No. Miss Jones, I saw that she had, a bulletin board or whatever. Be specific. Don't complain or seem worried about being ready for the opening of school. The kids will show up and school will open whether you're ready or not. They do every year, right on time. No need to panic. And then again, my pet peeve, don't mention how busy you are or how hard you're working. You signed on for this, and that's the expectation for everybody, and especially for school administration. Nobody's gonna feel sorry or bad for you. And don't whine and complain. Just strap it on. Let's go do it. Again, it's kind of like it's like that person um, that teacher that that interviewed for a job that they wouldn't take. You're wasting everybody's time by doing that. Again, if you're a school administrator that's complaining about how hard you're working or how busy you are, you're wasting everybody's time. That's what they hired you for, so everybody else wouldn't have to do that. So those are my top. Those are things that you should be able to do by that first meeting. I would carry a calendar. I would carry a notepad. You need to be a servant leader. You need to serve others. That's the role that you were hired into. They didn't hire you to be the boss just so that you make your life easy. You need to be a transformational leader, not a transactional. I said so because I'm in charge leader, or my name's on the door. I took this job so my life would be easier. No, your life's going to be harder. It'll be more rewarding, but it's going to be harder. And remember, you're changing jobs. You're going from working with children to working with adults. And so if they ask you who you'd rather work with, it's adults. You understand that you're now no longer working with students. You're now working with adults or with for students. And that's a different job. And so these are the things. Look at these materials. Call me, email me, let me know when you have interviews. If there's something that I can do for you, I will do your references and those kinds of things. Dr. Massengill, Dr. Tobias, they would have some good words of wisdom as sitting principals who are interviewing and hiring people yearly. Dr. Massengill just hired how many? 30 people?
Hired 55 in 2.5 weeks, 120 Zoom interviews.
Yeah. And so these people do it every day. So you've got some good expertise here for folks to do that. I see our time is up. I appreciate you being with us, Dr. Tobias and Dr. Massengill. Thank you as well. Remember, next week are our case study presentations. And so remember to look at the ethical piece, the ethics of the profession, along with the legal part for your response and for your reflection. We will cover the CAP next week, as you should be. If you've not already, you should be trying to complete the skip this week. If there's nothing else, thank you all for joining us tonight. I will see you next week. Have a good
evening, everyone.
Thank you.